Chicken lice are also extremely common in backyard flocks. Most of the time they are spread via wild birds or even brought in via rodents. They are super easily spread. They thrive in hot environments. And I know talking about them is going to make you feel like they're crawling on you, but don't worry, because poultry louse are specific to poultry. They live off dead skin and feathers of poultry, not humans. So even if they get on you, they're not going to stay there and they can't live there. The good news about poultry life is that their lifespan is relatively pretty short, only a couple weeks, and they can't survive long without our chickens as a host. The bad news is that they are very small and translucent and really difficult to detect until sometimes there is a full-blown infestation. That's why at this point in my chicken keeping career, because I've dealt with lice before, I've seen it firsthand, I've actually had younger, like 16-week-old chicks die from a lice infestation because they suck the nutrients out of the chickens and cause vitamin deficiencies. So around here, I will treat preventatively at least twice a year, and that treatment will include treatments for lice, mites, scaly leg mites, and internal parasites. It's also advisable to just go out into your coop periodically at night. Night is the best time while the chickens are roosting, and pick up a couple of your birds and do some inspections underneath the feathers to get an idea of what we're dealing with. For some reason, some chickens are just better predispositioned to deal with these issues. What I have found is that I'll have like 1 or 2 chickens with severe infestations, and then others in the same coop, it's like are untouched. It's like there's a sacrificial chicken. Lice usually live out most of their life cycle on the chicken because they feed off the chicken and the dander of the chicken. But because chickens are in so close of quarters together, that's how the lice will jump from chicken to chicken. Most often when I've seen lice on my birds, I typically see them up around the face right here, underneath their hackle feathers right in here, in this area back in here, but I'm also sure to check underneath the wings, right? I'll move the feathers and check underneath the skin and around the vent. Lice are so difficult to detect with the naked eye. What you're going to need to do is really peel the feathers back and look at the skin, and like quickly in multiple different spots, because as soon as you start to peel the feathers, they're going to run. More often than being able to detect the lice though, you're going to be able to see their nits, the eggs. They like to lay the eggs at the base of the feather shaft, and they usually end up looking a little bit like a Q-tip or even maybe like rock candy. They look like this. And sometimes this is the first indication of an infestation for many people. And honestly, if it's at this point, immediate treatment is necessary. Some other indications of lice could be things like decreased laying, pale combs as they suck out nutrients, missing feathers as they're trying to preen and pick to scratch where the lice are, chronic sort of head shaking, excessive preening. And there are lots of treatments for lice on the market. However, there is one that I find to be far more effective than anything else. You'll see things like poultry dust and permethrin suggested. I really love Ivermectin because it's such a broad spectrum treatment for different types of parasites, lice, and internal parasites. However, it seems like lice most oftenly like to feed off dead skin and feathers, and Ivermectin works because it inhabits the bloodstream of the chickens, and so as parasites bite and suck blood, they perish from there. So when it comes to lice, I believe that Elector PSP is a much more effective product. Elector PSP can be really pricey, but there are so many benefits to using it. For one, there's no egg withdrawal period. An egg withdrawal period is the amount of time that you need to wait to consume eggs after treating with certain medications, because that medications can make its way through the oviduct and into our eggs, and it's hard to tell the exact amount of which is going to enter the eggs. The active ingredient in Elector PSP is this stuff called spinosad. It is like a naturally occurring organism. It's an ingredient that's used in certain dog dewormers. It's used in organic gardening, so it's a very safe product. One of the most beneficial things is that spinosad not only kills live parasites, but it also takes care of the nits, the eggs on the bird. And that is really what separates it from the other treatments on the market. Treatments such as permethrin, Ivermectin, poultry dust don't take care of the nits, and so treatment is necessary again 10 days after the first treatment in order to get any eggs that have hatched in the meantime. Unlike Ivermectin, Elector PSP works when the solution comes into contact with the parasites or nits. So because of that, you want to be sure that you're either dipping your birds in the solution and moving the feathers around to make sure that the solution gets to the skin, the bugs, and the nits, or you can make the solution in a spray bottle and spray it directly onto the spaces where the bugs are. And you'll want to use that solution immediately. Don't let it sit around. An effective mixture is about 9 cc's of the Elector PSP per 1 gallon of water. You'll notice after treatment that the nits will not fall away immediately, and that's fine. They should start to turn gray, and you shouldn't see more lice as a result of those eggs. However, it's definitely a good idea to check again in 5 to 7, definitely 10 days later to see if you see any more live eggs, just in case something got missed, and retreatment is necessary. If one bird is dealing with lice, it's going to be a good idea to just go ahead and treat everyone in the flock and also the coop. You'll want to remove and burn all bedding and also spray down the coop. But the Elector PSP mixture that you used for your birds, that same solution can also be used to treat your coop, everywhere in your coop. After treatment, it may be a good idea to run a course of vitamins, maybe even probiotics for our chickens, just to give them a little bit of a boost after the frustration of having to deal with lice. And listen, sometimes even with the absolute best prevention methods, lice still come through the flock. But some things that we can do to help aid our chickens in guarding themselves against lice is to be sure that they have a good quality dust bath. And I'm not talking sand, I'm talking like soil. The soil in the environment has nutrients and organisms in the soil that help our chickens to clean themselves and better aid themselves against parasites like lice and mites too. Providing them with a good quality dust bath, adequate space, a good quality feed, access to sunlight, all of these things will offer them some of the tools that they need to attempt to deal with these issues on their own. When all that fails, it is always beneficial to know how to treat when these things arise. And Elector PSP is another product that I always keep on hand in my chicken keeping medicine cabinet.